Hello everyone and hello everyone and welcome to Vidhigya. CLAT 2022 CLAT 2020 CLAT 2022 हो गया. अब what next? Everyone wants to know the magical figure. Everyone wants to know what will be the cutoff for the top NLUs. What would have been a good number of attempt. We all want to know all of that. So ये सारी की सारी चीजें हम लोग आज इस वीडियो में हम लोग डिस्कस करेंगे. द आइडियल कट ऑफ क्या होना चाहिए था या जो कट ऑफ टॉप एनएलयूज के लिए हो सकता है. एक गुड नंबर ऑफ अटेम्प्ट फॉर दिस काइंड ऑफ क्वेश्चन पेपर. नाउ वी ऑलवेज टॉक अबाउट the question paper, but we also know the kind of approach. Vidhigyans have already talked about it. We have discussed it n number of times. What is the right way to approach this kind of question paper? There's only one way, and that is the Bolt's way. The Bolt's way is the only way to approach this kind of question paper. CLAT 2022. Now, before I move on to the main section that you're all waiting for, we must first understand and compare CLAT 2020, CLAT 2021, and CLAT 2022. CLAT 2020, because these are the years when this new pattern came into existence. CLAT 2020 अगर हम देखें तो वो पहला साल था एक नए पैटर्न के साथ, तो difficulty level was a bit on the higher side. 2021 was relatively easier, and going by according to our experience, according to our understanding, this year's paper we would like to put it as a moderate difficulty level paper. CLAT 2022 at a glance, 19th June 2022 it was conducted. आज के दिन वो हुआ है 22 NLUs के लिए, 131 across 131 centers across the country, plus approximately somewhere around 63,000 plus CLAT takers were there. The mode of examination we all know, offline paper pen offline mode of examination था CLAT का, CLAT 2022 का. Now coming to CLAT 2022 paper analysis, something that all of you are waiting for. Look, in Vidhigya we have a dedicated research team and we've been working on it since the evening. जैसी question paper हाथ में आया तब से we have been, the entire faculty team has been working on it, and based on our micro level analysis, and we have extrapolated that data at macro level and come up with a what could have been a good number of attempt, what should have been an ideal score to get top NLUs. So we have come up with that idea, we have come up with that data based on our micro level analysis and extrapolated to macro level figures. The magical figures, of course, but magical figures, everyone wants to know the magical figures. The magical figures, according to our understanding, according to our experience, will say that anyone who has attempted 132 questions, 132 plus question and scoring one between 106 and 110, that should be the ideal score that you must get. 132 will be a very comfortable attempt for a paper like this, which I've already mentioned that it's a moderate difficulty level question paper. In GK section, a good attempt would be around 29. Anyone who's attempted 29 plus is in a safer zone. Score 23, you could have easily scored 23 marks in that section. Quantitative techniques, again 11 questions, 7 to 9 would be a good score for that particular section. Logical reasoning was a kind of a cakewalk for a lot of students. 30 questions, you should have attempted all the 30 questions, and 24 to 26 I'll call as a good score for that particular section. English में 26 questions, it was a bit lengthy though. 26 question would have been a good attempt, 22 should be a good score for English. Now coming to legal reasoning में 36 questions, you could have attempted, a good attempt would be around 36 and a good score should be around 30. Now these are good attempts and score for top NLUs that we have predicted based on our analysis, based on our micro level analysis. Now I'll move on to section wise analysis so that you understand how we actually arrived at this kind of figures. Now again, before I move on to that part, anyone who has attended the Ranjiti session by Bahul sir would know how to exactly tackle this kind of question paper, how to tackle the lengthy part, how to manage time, all of those things we have already discussed in detail. Bahul sir has discussed in detail in his previous video on Ranjiti session. As you can see on the screen, there's a plan A and plan B. Anyone who has followed this plan A, plan B and has done very good intersectional and intrasectional sequencing has followed it, and I know a lot of you, most of the Vidhigyans who have followed this have attempted more than 135, 140 even. So the thumb rule, intrasectional sequencing and the intersectional sequencing, anyone who has done that and has done that in the right way will certainly ace this examination without any doubt. So exam cracking strategy is very, very important. These magical figures are based on, on the fact that people have been following these rules, people have been following these ideas and patterns. Now coming to subject wise analysis, as I have already mentioned कि हम लोग इस मैक्रो लेवल पे जो एक हमने आपको डेटा दिया कि 132, 106 to 110, we have come on that, we have arrived at that figure based on a micro level analysis, हर एक क्वेश्चन के डिफिकल्टी लेवल और उस डिफिकल्टी लेवल पे कितने क्वेश्चंस डुएबल थे और कितने क्वेश्चंस हमें छोड़ देने चाहिए थे, उसके बेसिस पे वी हैव अराइव्ड. सो नाउ विल मूव ऑन टू सब्जेक्ट वाइज एनालिसिस. हर एक सेक्शन को हम लोग जल्दी समझेंगे. Look, a few questions were really tough when it comes to general knowledge. General knowledge mein there were few questions which are really, really tough. But then there were some questions which were very easy. Just like Russia-Ukraine conflict, there was a passage on Russia-Ukraine conflict. It was a cakewalk. Anyone who had read this passage, read this issue holistically would be able to answer all the questions. So this was the kind of breakup. This is the kind of breakup of the passages. We have also identified some of the sources. For example, the first passage on India's maritime defense was taken from Sunday Guardian, Economic Times, moderate to high level. CSR or COVID relief pay article, it has been taken from Economic Times. Green tech patents, it has been taken from Economic Times. We have identified the sources and also the theme. The theme broadly were maritime defense, CSR was asked, green tech patents, ISRO, drone Shakti, Ukraine-Russia war, AFSPA. Now, based on the kind of questions that were asked, I'd say the general knowledge section made 29 questions. 29 questions were very well doable, and a score around 23 can increase your chances of getting a good law school. The top NLUs. Quantitative techniques. Coming to quantitative techniques. Quantitative techniques mein dekhiye, it was a time consuming, a particular set was really very difficult. Students found it really difficult. So the level of difficulty, I'd say the overall level of difficulty, I put it in the section of hard. It was really, really tough. But then passage 1 and passage 2, which was basically on percentage, ratio and proportion. Anyone who has done the intrasectional sequencing properly and had left the difficult one for the last, to be attempted at the last, would have easily, managed the time, would have easily scored good marks in quantitative techniques. What is a good score? Now coming to what is a good score? 11 was a good attempt for this section and 7 to 9 would have been a good score for this particular section. तो जिसने भी अपने रणनीति वाले सेशन को फॉलो किया, इंट्रासेक्शनल और इंटरसेक्शनल सीक्वेंसिंग को समझा, उसको ये समझ में आएगा कि यहाँ पर एक पैसेज पर्टिकुलरली बहुत डिफिकल्ट था जिसको उस वक्त तुरंत नहीं करना था. दैट हैड टू बी केप्ट फॉर द लास्ट. और जिसने भी इस तरह को, इस पैटर्न को, इस रणनीति को फॉलो किया होगा, दे वुड हैव बीन एबल टू वेरी इजीली हैंडल दिस पर्टिकुलर सेक्शन. Now coming to our next section, logical reasoning. Logical reasoning, today's logical reasoning was a cakewalk. It could have saved a lot of time for English as well. अभी हम लोग आगे डिस्कस करेंगे, but it could have saved a lot of time. For English section was a bit lengthy. We'll discuss it in detail later on. But the level of difficulty, of course, easy. It was easy section. Again, logical reasoning में अगर आप देखेंगे तो we have our research team, we have actually tried to reverse engineer and try to identify what kind of sources are CLAT referring to prepare their question paper. किस तरह के sources पे वो जाते हैं अपने question papers, अपने questions को frame करने के लिए. तो logical reasoning में again we have come up with some certain sources that they have referred to. The point is environment, biodiversity, renewable energy, education, socioeconomic, law, psychology, and law. So these are the kind of passages that were asked in this particular section of logical reasoning, and logical reasoning was a very, very easy section. You could have easily attempted all 30 of the questions and even saved time at the end of it. 24 to 26 would have been an ideal score, a good score for logical reasoning. Moving ahead, let's talk about English language. English language passage, it was lengthy. अभी हम आगे देखेंगे the number of words that were there in each and every passage. Yes, it was lengthy. But again, if you have smartly done the intrasectional sequencing, ISS, Vidhigyans are very well aware of what ISS is, what risk reward ratio is, what offset is. Anyone who understands these techniques would have easily managed the time in even in the section of English. Time consuming but doable, of course. Why doable? Because somewhere around 50 to 60% questions you can easily say that it was, you can directly find the answer in the passage itself. So yes, English language. So the theme was largely on humanities, the brief history of origin, psychology, oil and geopolitics, public speaking and economy. So these were the broader themes that we were talking about. Now coming to the number of attempts, the good attempts should be around 26 and the correct should be around 22. Now we're talking about top NLUs here. We're talking about top NLUs. The good attempt should be around 26 and correct answers you can you can imagine somewhere around 22. That should have been correct. Now coming to legal reasoning, again time consuming but very well doable. The overall level of difficulty, I would say it was around medium level of difficulty was there. लीगल रीजनिंग में कहां से पूछा गया, it was very constitution heavy, a lot of coaching institutions have been ignoring this particular aspect, but Vidhigya has particularly focused on constitution. So I'm very sure the Vidhigyans have really aced it, and I know students who have attempted 40, I have no students who have attempted more than 38 37 questions. So again, the sources here, they have taken the passage from multiple sources, so there's no particular source from where they're taking the passages. But coming to the themes, constitution, it was very constitution heavy. There's one from international law, one from criminal law, contract mistake. There's one question from contract, then there's one question from personal law as well. Overall level of difficulty is moderate for legal reasoning section. A good attempt for this particular section, I would say, is 36. A 36 number of questions whoever has attempted, it's a good number of attempt. And correct, what the number of questions that should have been correct for this particular section, I would say it's 30 questions. I would say is very comfortable if you're targeting the top NLUs. So this was largely our macro and micro level analysis of today's CLAT 2022 paper. Those of you who have followed your newspapers regularly, who have done your revisions well, I'm sure, who have followed the Raniti session by Bahul sir, I'm sure you will be able to score very good marks. That's all for today. Stay logical and stay ahead with Vidhigya. Thank you so much.